Hey guys, so I recently had somebody ask me a question and I thought that it would be a good topic to talk about on my channel. So somebody asked me, what is the difference between a PCA and a CNA? And these are not to be confused. So a PCA is something different from a PCT, which is a patient care tech, which a lot of CNAs can work as PCTs, PCTs can work as CNAs, and CNAs can work as PCAs, but PCAs cannot work as PCTs or CNAs, if that makes sense. And I know that that sounds confusing, so I am going to elaborate for those of you who are confused. So, a CNA is a certified nursing assistant, and a lot of them are called aides. So, CNAs basically help with the ADLs. In some situations, they can administer medications or do medication reminders, like with home care and things like that. CNAs also have a certification. So, CNAs can work in multiple different settings. Like in my area, they are able to work in long term care, home health, home care, hospice. They can work in rehab units. They can work in psych. They can work in hospitals. I don't know if I said that. And even some doctor's offices in my area are hiring for CNAs as well. So, PCA is different from CNA, at least here in the state of Indiana. PCAs are patient care assistants or patient care aides. So, I found this website that has kind of a good explanation of the differences between a PCA and a CNA. So, I'm going to read a little bit about the differences. So, when talking about a PCA, the patient care aide is primarily a caregiver, while the CNA is an entry level medical worker. So, with PCAs, it's more like a caregiver. So, a lot of these are doing like the home care jobs or caregiving jobs. Some nursing homes now, because of COVID, are hiring PCAs, but a lot of them, like depending on the facility, are not able to do certain things unless a CNA or a nurse is there to supervise. They're not allowed to do like um, vital signs and things like that. So it can get a little bit confusing. So the PCA would help with feeding, hygiene, and some mobility needs, such as pushing a wheelchair. At the facility that I am working at currently, we do employ PCAs, and a lot of them are not allowed to do anything unless a CNA is there. Like, they cannot transfer anybody because they haven't necessarily been trained to transfer. And, if a patient or resident was to get injured, they don't want that to fall on the PCA because they don't really know how to safely transfer someone. So, they can sit in the dining room, they can help people who need help with feeding, they can do companionship type stuff, they can help with like brushing the teeth, washing the face, doing nails, stuff like that. They can transport them around the facility. A lot of them may accompany people to do groceries, like if they work in home care, stuff like that as a caregiver. They can do laundry, things like that. That wouldn't necessarily be in a facility though, unless like CNAs or PCAs are responsible for doing laundry in the facility. A lot of facilities have their own laundry workers. So it says a CNA is normally expected to help with taking vital signs, dressing wounds, and administering medication. Of course, the lines between these activities are sometimes blurred. That also depends on the state that you're in, because in the state of Indiana, you cannot administer medication as a CNA unless you are a QMA, which you have to go through additional training in order to become a QMA, and you also have to have worked 1,000 hours minimum as a CNA. And you have to have proof of that before you can even take a QMA class in the state of Indiana. Now, for those who are wondering what a QMA is, that is just a medication aid. So it's kind of like a med tech in other states. But as a CNA, you cannot do that. And as a CNA in the state of Indiana, you cannot dress wounds. You can't really be involved in taking care of wounds and stuff like that in the state of Indiana as a CNA. Now, CNA responsibilities are different from state to state, so you just have to be mindful of what the laws are and what your scope of practice is as a CNA in your state. Because, like I said, what someone can do in Indiana may not be true for what somebody can do in Alaska, Michigan, Arizona, Texas, wherever. Um, some states do not allow a PCA to administer medication, while a CNA can do so. And again, like I said, in Indiana, a CNA cannot administer medication. And even in home care, a CNA or a caregiver can do medication reminders, but technically we are not supposed to handle the medication ourselves. So if somebody needs a medication reminder, literally in Indiana, all you can do, at least at the facilities and home care companies that I have worked for, literally all you can do is take their pill container and hand it to them when it's time for them to take their medications. You cannot take the pill out and hand them the pill. You have to give them their entire pill container. And that was just in home care. Um, Although at one of the assisted living facilities that I have worked at, you were able to give them the pill bottle, but you cannot like give them just a pill by itself. And this said certification is not necessary for a PCA in most states, while a CNA has to have a certification to gain employment. And again, that also depends on the state. For CNA, some states you can't get your certification until you have a job. I think it's Alabama. It's either Alabama or Arkansas, where as a CNA you cannot get your certification until you have a job because your employer has to vouch for you. So if you're like doing it by reciprocity, you have to have an employer. I'm not sure if that's true like right out of CNA training, but I know if in reciprocity, it's either Alabama or Arkansas. In order to get your certification by reciprocity, you have to have an employer vouch for you and say that you work for them in order to get it. So I hope that this was helpful for those of you who were interested in the differences between PCA and CNA. But yeah, I believe like some places the only thing that they ask is for you to have like first aid and CPR training. But I mean, there are some places that offer PCA training classes. They're not usually as long as CNA classes because they don't give you as much like knowledge as a CNA class would. But if this is something that you're interested in doing like long term, I would probably say you should just go for your CNA if you want to get the training because, you know, as a CNA instead of a PCA, there's a whole slew of opportunities as far as jobs go for you to, be able to get employment. Sorry, my mind kind of blanked there. But anyways, I hope this was helpful. If there's any other topics you guys would like to hear me talk about or you would like more information on, I can definitely get something together for you. So just let me know in the comments and I will talk to you guys again in my next video.